If I were working with a small amount of money, the universe would be huge compared to the universe of possible ideas I work with now. I think if you're working with a small amount of money, I think you can make very significant sums.
Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger have been around for a really, really long time. So it's easy to forget that they were also once young before, and they didn't have the billions of dollars that they started out with. They started out investing with small amounts of money, investing in obscure companies, slowly building themselves in becoming this large juggernaut that they are with Berkshire Hathaway today. But the craziest thing about all of this is that they made the most amount of percentage return per annum in those early years. And I'm talking about 200, 300, 400% returns on the first several years when they started investing, when they only had thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to invest with, opposed to millions and billions that they have today. And for us as small investors, it's very important to remember those early years of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And there's method behind all of this. It's much easier getting high returns with thousands and tens of thousands of dollars versus investing with millions and billions of dollars.
And frankly, when you get the chance to talk to somebody like Lorimer Davidson, as I did when I was 20 years old, I probably learned more from Lorimer Davidson in those 4 or 5 hours than I learned in college, with the exception of learning some accounting or 1 or 2 subjects like that.
First off, Warren Buffett expresses the importance of listening to well-informed people. And I'm not talking about the get-rich-overnight YouTube gurus that's scattered all over the internet.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here.
I'm talking about people that have actually walked the talk, people that have been there, people that have done it, people that are giving investing advice, not so that they can profit from you, but rather because they are in a part of their life where they share information, very much like what Charlie and Warren is doing today. The great thing about the world that we live in today is that we can find almost any information that would have been almost impossible to get a decade ago. But it is vitally important that you need to have a really good crap filter.
So you just want to soak it up. If you have those qualities you talked about, you'll see the areas as you go along. I mean, Charlie and I probably, we've made money in a lot of different ways, some of which we didn't anticipate, when we were 30 or 40 years ago. But we did have the ability to recognize some. We didn't have the ability to recognize others. But we did know when we knew what we were doing and when we didn't. And we just kept looking. We had a curiosity about things. You would know at a time like the long-term capital management crisis, for example, that there were going to be ways to make money. I mean, they were going to be out there, and all you had to do was just read and think 8 or 10 hours a day, and you were going to cover a lot of possibilities, probably a very high percentage of them good and some of them sensational. So you can't really lay it out ahead of time. You can't have a defined roadmap, but you can have a reservoir of thinking, looking at different kinds of businesses, looking at different kinds of securities, looking at markets in different places, and you will then spot a reasonable number of things that come along. You won't spot every one of them. We've missed all kinds of things. But the biggest thing, too, is to have something in the way you're programmed so that you don't ever do anything where you can lose a lot. I mean, our best ideas have not been better than other people's best ideas, but we've never had a lot of things that pulled us way back. So we never went 2 steps forward and 1 step back. We probably went 2 steps forward and a fraction of a step back. But avoiding the catastrophes is a very important thing, and it will be important in the future. I mean, you will have your chance to participate in catastrophes.
Having a deep curiosity for your investing subject is of paramount importance. Now, Warren and Charlie would read 8 to 10 hours per day, and that's a tremendous amount of knowledge that they have built up over the years, and it's knowledge that they rely on to make sound investing decisions. The knowledge helps them identify investment opportunities and is ultimately what made them successful investors. That's Charlie and Warren, and you and I don't have 10 hours a day to read. But you still have an opportunity to become a subject matter expert in a specific investing field. Look, I'll give you an example. Twitter is an amazing platform to connect with industry experts in any line that you can think of. Let's say you have a passion for robotics, an industry that's set to explode in this decade. But really anything can go that you have a passion for. In less than 5 minutes, I found Sam Corris, a robotics expert with ARK Investment. ARK Investment is a research firm known for giving out their research for free to the industry and shares their trades on a daily basis. I can follow Sam's research and read all the articles that he links in his Twitter feed. So I've been investigating Sam's Twitter feed, and it's an absolute rabbit hole. You start reading his Twitter posts and the articles that he links to, the people that comment on his Twitter feeds, and the people that he follows. Once I press the follow button on Sam's Twitter feed, Twitter's recommender system introduced me to various industry experts within robotics, and it's just an indefinite loop of the amount of information that you can get from those absolute subject matter experts. These are people I wouldn't find elsewhere, not on the web and not in my day-to-day life. The information that these guys are giving away on social media would have been worth tens of thousands of dollars 10 years ago, and today I've got it right there at my fingertips, and I can become a mini subject matter expert in my own right. What is amazing is that I found all of this information without leaving Twitter. By viewing one tweet and following one account, I went from zero industry knowledge to acquiring enough to have an informed view. A view I could use to generate investment ideas.
Yeah, and of course the place to look when you're young is in the inefficient markets. You shouldn't be trying to guess whether, one drug company has a better drug pipeline than another. You want to go, when you're young, someplace that's very inefficient.
And you shouldn't be trying to guess whether the stock market is going to go up or whether long-term bonds are going to change.
When Charlie and Warren says the inefficient markets, they are talking about stocks that Wall Street consistently overlook. These are your microcap stocks where your thousands can easily become tens of thousands, and your tens of thousands hundreds of thousands, and your hundreds of thousands millions. And let's be honest, this is what Charlie and Warren did in the early part of their career. I know it seems far-fetched, but just listen to what Warren said in a 1996 Berkshire Hathaway meeting. Even he can testify that those sort of returns are possible when you're working with those small amounts of money.
I was working with a tiny amount of money. And so I would pour through volumes of businesses, and I would find one or two that I could put $10,000 into or $15,000 into that were just ridiculous. They were ridiculously cheap. I think if you're working with a small amount of money, with exactly the same background that Charlie and I have, and same ideas, same whatever ability we have, I think you can make very significant sums. But as soon as you start getting the money up into the millions, many millions, the curve on expectable results falls off just dramatically. But that's the nature of it. You've got to, when you get up to things you can put millions of dollars into, you've got a lot of competition looking at that, and they're not looking as I did when I started. When I started, I went through the pages of the manuals page by page. I mean, I probably went through 20,000 pages in the Moody's Industrial, Transportation, Banks, and Finance manuals. And I did it twice. And I actually, looked at every business. I didn't look very hard at some. Well, that's not a practical way to invest tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. So I would say if you're working with a small sum of money and you're really interested in the business and willing to do the work, you will find something. If you were, there's no question about it in my mind. You will find some things that promise very large returns compared to what we will be able to deliver with large sums of money.